So, welcome to Unit 3 live session. This week, for our discussion, we're taking a look at the one of the most commonly asked questions during an interview for a Java job is, what is the difference between an abstract class and an interface? It's easy to answer this question by simply providing the definitions for each type of the structure. So we're also going to take a look at graphical advanced GUIs, graphical user interfaces. Let me share my desktop. I want to share my, okay, now let's find my PowerPoint. Oh. Okay, so our reading takes us to chapter 13, which covers advanced GUI applications. Wait for this to open. Excuse me. So in this chapter, we're going to discuss Swing and AWT, class hierarchy. We're going to discuss read-only text fields, list, combo boxes, displaying images and labels and buttons, and mnemonics and tooltips. We're also going to take a look at file choosers and color choosers, menus, more about text components, text areas and fonts, sliders, and the look and feel. This is all dealing with advanced GUI interfaces, graphical user interfaces. So this is the Swing and the AWT class hierarchy. You can take a look at this. This is the JavaX Swing package. So what are read-only text fields? Well, they're fields that their text fields are a different way to use the JText field component in Java. It has a method named setEditable. By default, a text field is editable. The setEditable method must be called and passed false to make the field read only. List. A list is a component that displays a list of items, basically what it is, and allows the user to select the items from the list. Java uses the JList component for creating these lists. When an instance of JList is created, an array of objects is passed to the constructor. And the JList component uses the array to create the list of items. There's an example below. So the JList component can operate in any of the following selection modes. Single selection mode, where only one item can be selected at a time. Single interview selection mode, where multiple items can be selected, but they must be in a single interview. And then there is multiple interval selection mode. In this mode, multiple items may be selected with no restrictions. Go back one. Okay. And this is an example of single selection, and where you can only select one item, and this multiple selection where you can select multiple items, and then single interval selection allows a single interview of continuous items to be selected. So JList component selection mode with the set selection mode method. So this method accepts the initial argument that determines the selection mode. And below is an example. Name list dot set selection mode, list selection mode equals single underscore selection. List events. When an item in a JList object is selected, it generates a list selection event. This event is handled by an instance of a list selection listener class, which must meet the following requirements. It must implement the list selection listener. It must have a method called value change, and that method must take an argument of the list selection event type. Use the add list selection listener method of the JList class to register the instance of the list selection listener class with the list object. When the JList component generates an event, it automatically executes the value change method of the list selection listener object. It passes the event object as an argument. So how do you retrieve selected items? You may use get selected value or get selected index. Get selected value returns a reference to the item that is currently selected, and the return value must be cast a string is required in order to store it in the selected name variable. If no item in the list is selected, the method returns null. The get selected index method must return the index of the selected item or -1 if no item is selected. Retrieving selected items. This code can be used to determine the selected item. Example below is listwindow.java. So bordered list, basically set border methods can be used to draw a border around the JList. Adding a scroll bar to a list. By default, a list component is large enough to display all of the items it contains. Sometimes a list component contains too many items to be displayed at once, and you want to create a GUI that displays a scroll bar on list components. And list components do not automatically display a scroll bar. So how do you display a scroll bar? You set the number of visible rows for the list component. You create a scroll pane object and add the list to it. And you add the scroll pane object to any container, such as panels. So this is how you add a scroll bar to a list, and you establish the size of the list component. The JScrollPane class to use the JScrollPane class to create a scroll pane object. This is more information on adding a scroll bar to a list. So when a JList component is added to a JScrollPane object, a border is automatically will appear around the list. How do you add items to existing lists? The set list data method allows the adding of items in existing JList components. So this replaces any items that are currently displayed in the component. This can be used to add items to an empty list. This is how you create an empty list. This is how items can be added to the list. So this is about single interval selection mode and how you set that. This is how you set up multiple interval selection mode. So in multiple interval selection mode, multiple items can be selected. The items do not have to be in the same interval. Exactly what it says, multiple items can be selected. This is an example of a multiple interval selection mode. What are combo boxes? Combo boxes present a drop-down list of items that the user may select from. The JComboBox class is used to create a combo box. When displayed, the combo box created by this code will initially appear at the bottom as the button, sorry. This is an example of a combo box. So when an item, a JComboBox object is selected, it generates an action event. That action event with an action event listener class must have an action performed method. When the user selects an item in a combo box, the combo box executes its action event listener's action performed method, passing an action event object as an argument. This is how you retrieve selected items in a JComboBox. You get selected item and you get selected index.
The getSelectedIndex method returns the index of the selected item, and you get the selected item from the names array. This is an example of a combo box window and retrieving selected items. There are two types of combo boxes, editable and uneditable. So the setEditable method sets the edit mode for the component. Editable combo box appears as a text field with a small button displaying an arrow joining it. The user may select an item from the list and may type a value into the text field. So note here that Sharon is not in the list, but if she types it in, she can edit that and add it to the list. Therefore, creating what's called an editable combo box. So this is how you display images and labels and buttons. Labels can display text and image or both. So the way you display an image is you use the image icon class, which reads the image file. So the supported image types are JPEG, GIF, and PNG. You use the JLevel constructor and the image icon object as an argument to the JLevel constructor. And the argument passes an image icon object or any object that implements the icon interface. Text alignment can be modified by passing one of the following to an overloaded constructor. You want to set the text as left, centered, or right. This is how you create a button with an image. It's similar to that of creating a label with an image. So you're creating a button with an image and a text in this code right here. Mnemonics, well, what is a mnemonic? Mnemonic is a key that you press in combination with the Alt key to quickly access a component. These are sometimes referred to as hotkeys. A hotkey is assigned to a component through the component's set mnemonic method. The argument passed to the method is an integer code that represents the key you wish to assign. You use the key event class. This is an example of that. So in mnemonics, if the letter in the component's text, the first occurrence of that letter will appear underlined. If the letter does not appear in the component's text, then no letter will appear underlined. So you can also use mnemonics, assign mnemonics to radio buttons and checkboxes. So what's a tooltip? A tooltip is a text that is displayed in a small box when the mouse is held over a component. The box usually gives a short description of what the component does, and most GUI applications use tooltips as concise help to the user. So you use the setTooltip text method to assign a tooltip to a component. File choosers is a specialized dialog box that allows the user to browse for a file and select it. And you use the JFileChooser class to display a file chooser dialog box. It can display two types of predefined dialog boxes, an open file dialog box and a save file dialog box. This is how you display an open file dialog box. This is how you display a save file dialog box using the show save dialog method. This is about file choosers.
So the get selected file method does return a file object which contains data about the selected file. It also grabs the path. Color choosers, well, that's basically what that is. It's a specialized dialog box that allows the user to select a color from a predefined palette of colors. You have to use the JColorChooser class, which creates this, the color chooser. The example of a color choosers. So a menu system is a collection of commands organized in one or more drop-down menus. Like you see on most Windows Office products. Copy, cut, paste, there's a separator bar, sort, autosave, choosing a large font, small font, ascending, descending. And a menu system commonly consists of a menu bar, a menu item, checkbox menu item, a radio button menu item, a submenu, and a separator bar. You have to use the JMenu bar class to create this. For a checkbox, you got to use the J checkbox menu item to create a checkbox in the menu class. For a radio button, you use the J radio button menu item. Text areas, the J text field class is used to create text fields. A text field is a component that allows a user to enter a single line of text. You use the J text area class, provides the get text and the set text methods for getting and setting the text. So the J scroll pane object displays both vertically and horizontal scroll bars on the text area. By default, the scroll bars are not displayed until they are needed. So you can set the horizon scroll bar, or horizontal scroll bar, or you can set it as a vertical scroll bar. It's about fonts. Components display according to their font characteristics. This is how you set the font component. You use the set font method, which changes the appearance of the text in the component. These are different font styles. What a slider is a component that allows the user to graphically adjust a number within a range. They are created by the JSlider class. And they display an image of a slider knob that can be dragged along a track. So the JSlider constructor has the general format of JSlider, int orientation, int min value, int max value, int initial value. More about sliders. I don't use too many sliders. So the look and feel of your graphical user interface, the look and feel is considered the appearance of your GUI. Java allows you to select the look and feel of a GUI application. On most systems, Java's default look and feel is called Metal. There are also Motif and Windows look and feel classes for Java. Motif is similar to a Unix look and feel. Windows is the look and feel of the Windows operating system. And you use the UI Manager class static set look and feel method. This is how you do Metal look and feel, Motif look and feel, and Windows look and feel. And that's just an example. There's the Metals look, the Motif look, and the Windows look in Java. more about the look and feel. And that concludes our Unit 3 live session. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me by email or post a message in the class question board if you're having any issues. And I hope everybody has a great weekend.